All right, let's dive right into this explainer with a pretty bold core thesis. Every great story absolutely has to have a shape. Otherwise, well, let's be honest, it's just noise. You might already be perfectly comfortable talking, and you might know exactly who you're talking to. But if you really want to grab someone's attention, especially in a professional setting, you need a highly specific architecture for your ideas. So here's our roadmap for today. First, the shape of a story. Second, context. Third, conflict. Fourth, change. Fifth, the grammar trap. And finally, number 6, putting it all together. Okay, moving right into section 1, the shape of a story. Build a strong narrative. So this 3-part framework is known as the 3C model, and it's literally the only blueprint you need to build any narrative. It's actually stunning how simple it is. Step 1, context. Step 2, conflict. Step 3, change. 3 parts, and that is it. It doesn't matter if you're giving a quick update at a team meeting, sharing an anecdote over coffee, or standing up for a massive project presentation, mastering these 3 steps is absolutely the key to holding the room. Now, taking a look at this, it brilliantly illustrates exactly why we need all 3 pieces working together. Each C serves a very specific psychological purpose for the person listening to you. Context makes them understand, conflict makes them interested, and change, that makes them remember. Think about it. If you pull out the conflict, people just stop listening. They check their phones. And if you take out the change, people will completely forget your entire story by tomorrow morning. You need the whole shebang. Section 2, context, setting the scene, the foundation of your story. Context does a very specific job by answering just 3 foundational questions for your audience. Who is in the story? Where does it happen? And what was normal before anything changed? That's it. Your listener really doesn't need more than that. If you drag this setup part out, you're going to lose them before the real story even kicks off. Keep it super tight so they can just immediately ground themselves in your world. So to show you how this works, we're going to follow a threaded example today about a salsa band. What's fascinating here is how perfectly it answers the who, the where, and the what was normal in literally just 3 sentences. Listen to this. Last year, I was working in a recording studio in Cali. Our client was a salsa band. They had played together for 15 years, but they had never recorded an album. Boom. Just like that, we have all the context we could possibly need. But how exactly do we pull off that kind of efficiency? Well, it's grammar. By mapping out the grammar on a timeline like this, you start to see that these past tenses aren't just dry rules from a textbook. They're actually psychological tools that tell your listener exactly when things happen before the real plot begins. You use the past continuous for something already in motion. I was working. You drop in the past simple for the hard, established facts. Our client was a salsa band. And you bring in the past perfect for the deep background, the stuff that happened way before. They had played together for 15 years. Let's jump to section 3, conflict, the crucial choice. Without this pivotal moment of tension, this choice, you honestly don't have a story. I mean, think about it. A story where everything goes perfectly according to plan? That's incredibly boring, and your audience will tune out in seconds. Conflict is the engine. It's that exact moment something goes totally off the rails, or somebody vehemently disagrees, or you're suddenly forced to make a really tough call. No conflict, no story. Period. Building onto our salsa band story, notice how the conflict creeps in incrementally, handing us 2 really uncomfortable truths at the exact same time. The take had mistakes, but it sounded real. And this is exactly what conflict looks like in the real professional world. Competing priorities. The narrator is stuck, and they have to make a choice. To build that tension linguistically, we use the word although as a structural tool. It's a 2-part harmony. The first part emits the problem, and then the second part delivers the good news, or your main point. Although the take had mistakes, it sounded real. And, hey, don't forget that crucial little comma right in the middle. It balances the problem with your point. It essentially tells your listener, yeah, I see the issue, but here is why we moved forward anyway. Then, to really crank up that tension, we bring in the second conditional. Now, don't think of this as a dusty grammar rule. It's the linguistic manifestation of a choice that was still totally possible at that exact moment in the narrative. If I corrected it, the album would sound dead. This isn't about looking backward, right? It literally places your listener right in your shoes at the very second you had to make a decision. You hadn't decided yet, and they don't know what you're going to choose. Section 4. Change, the final lesson. Okay, a story doesn't just end with a result. It ends with change. Actually, this is where I see the most mistakes. So many speakers mistakenly stop when the project finishes or when the client signs off. They'll say, "And we ship the product on time." Great. But that's just a result. That's not a change. To make sure your story sticks in their heads long after you've left the room, you have to synthesize the final lesson. You must answer the ultimate question. What do you know now that you did not know before? Listen closely to the final beat of our salsa band example. If I had corrected every note, nobody would have heard the band. That last sentence isn't just the result of keeping the audio take, it's the ultimate lesson learned from the whole ordeal. It gives the entire story its meaning and its weight. Now, to express this deep, reflective lesson about something completely finished in the past, we lean on the third conditional. We use it to powerfully highlight what did not happen. If I had corrected it, nobody would have heard the band. It operates in two parts: if plus had plus the past participle, followed up by would have plus the past participle. Structurally, this signals to your listener that the events are totally over and we are now just extracting the wisdom from them. Moving on to Section 5, the grammar trap. Avoid common mistakes. All right, let's do a really quick check here. Think for a second and ask yourself, which of these second conditionals is structurally correct? Is it option A, if I would correct it, the album sounded dead, or is it option B, if I corrected it, the album would sound dead? Take just a second to decide. And the answer is B. Why? Because the absolute unbreakable rule, literally the one that will get you arrested by the grammar police, is that you must never, ever put the word would directly after the word if. Never. Would belongs exclusively in the second part of the sentence. This mistake is surprisingly common, but fixing it will instantly elevate the professionalism of how you communicate. Okay, let's test this one more time, this time with the third conditional, the one we use for our final lesson. Take a look and make your choice between A and B. Which one correctly starts the thought? Once again, B is correct, proving that the exact same rule applies to the third conditional. After if, you always say had. That would have chunk, that belongs firmly in part 2, never directly after if. Seriously, check this rule every single time you write a conditional sentence, and you'll make sure your brilliant stories aren't completely undermined by distracting structural error. Finally, Section 6, putting it all together, the final synthesis. So here it is. This is your ultimate cheat sheet to craft just 6 short sentences into one complete, captivating story. You've got 3 sentences of past tense context so they understand, 2 sentences of conflict using although and the second conditional so they stay interested, and 1 final sentence of change using the third conditional so they actually remember the lesson. Now, obviously, your own real-world projects might take a little longer to explain, but the underlying shape, it remains exactly the same. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. The very next time you step into a meeting, are you just going to report the noise, or are you finally going to tell a story they can't forget?